This is a story about a princess who was born on the night of two blood moons, and on that day, the kingdom's lifespan came to an end. Kidnapped by those behind the invasion of the kingdom, she became their test subject for the reason that she was the only person in the world born with magic. The leader of the experiment and the doctor who led the invasion of the kingdom. Due to constant pain, the girl lost her sight and never saw his face. But she still remembers the chilling voice that yearned to get her magic. That day he said that there was one last experiment left. It just so happened that on the day of the last experiment and on the day of her coming of age, magic has gone out of control inside an experimental chamber. Her whole body was shattered into pieces, and according to the plan, the girl was supposed to die at that very moment. But when she opened her eyes, she felt that something had happened. Her body felt different, and in the first second she saw someone's silhouette in front of her. Looking closer, I saw a crying mother who was praying for her child to survive at any cost. Not understanding what was happening, all that was left was to simply watch what was happening in the body of a small child who could not even say a few words or go anywhere. At this moment, her mother calls the headmaid and orders her to escort the princess to a safe place. After that, she only heard the words, Yernian El Marini. No matter what happens, you must never cry like that again. The woman sent her child to a safe place and stayed there to face her fear. The girl cries very loudly, breaks out back to her mother because she suspects that this may be their last meeting. Yenny understands that the body of a tricked-out child cannot stop today's tragedy, but at least she must not violate her mother's last will. He remembers all too well the cost of failing to keep those words. She thought to herself that if there was a god, she had to hope that this time they couldn't find her. She couldn't be trapped again in an experimental chamber where no archer of light could penetrate. At that moment, she suddenly felt a very familiar sensation, like magic. But it should have awakened in her much later. This time, everything happens much earlier than it was in the past life. In the end, the next place where she opened her eyes was a strange place that was not a burnt royal palace or a cold experimental chamber from her past. Next to her was apparently her mother. Next to her were three maids who were touching the cute child. The three of them love children very much. They don't notice how time flies when they play with her. According to their history, this place is a special dimension called Mieg, and it's quite interesting. Long ago, before the line of magicians was interrupted, a magician chosen by the Mio line, Akamaru, created this space for the Mio clan. Since the girl is still in the body of a baby, there is no doubt that she has returned to the past. But she has no idea how this happened, but it is definitely something she should remember. Meanwhile, someone nearby says that if the child hadn't hidden with her innate magic, it would have been dangerous. Someone turns to His Majesty and says that he cannot treat a human child like that. To which the guy replies that they need to think about what to do now, because he has never encountered anything like this before. The assistant noticed that the child had fallen asleep and suggested how to hold him correctly. His Majesty said that this child is truly the messiah of the Mio clan, and he no longer doubts it. He feels it. After that, he remembered that they should find the culprit who attacked the kingdom, and then asked to bring Ignis here. He is just the perfect person to find the villain. Millie accepted the assignment and asked what about the princess's chambers. She needs somewhere to sleep. The gentleman praised her for her concern and asked her to prepare a separate room next to his bedroom. After all, the baby should have personal space. The girl remembers all this very vaguely, but in this life she was definitely saved by the Mayo clan. It seems that the Mayo clan does not intend to conduct experiments on her. Yenny is already wondering if this time she will be able to live as a normal person and not as an experiment. 3 months later, she realized serious problems. She is still too small and grows slowly, so she cannot communicate even at that age. All she can do is make some incomprehensible sounds and cry. This guy is constantly looking after her. He even learned to sense what her sounds mean, for example. Now he realized that she is hungry. Yenny can't remember his name, it's Licht. He is the king of the Mio clan, and also a very kind and fair person. It's just a pity that he doesn't know much about how to handle children, and what they can and can't do. This time he found a live fish that he caught this morning, and didn't think that Jenny might get scared. For her it is not a small fish at all, but some strange creature that flaps its fins and moves very quickly. The boy realized his mistake only when the maid ran in and started to calm the child down. He wanted the best, but it turned out as always. But everyone is already used to it. Assistants sometimes come to control Yenny, like now. The girl immediately apologized and said that she would have to explain something to him. Human children are different from children born from those who are half human, half animal. Such children cannot eat raw food, and at that age it is generally advisable to give something harmless, without bones, and in the form of puree, so that it is easier to chew. To which he replied that when he asked the child about her preferences yesterday, she remained silent and did not say anything like that. The assistant laughed and reminded that now the girl can only babble. Licht would sometimes visit her at night, look at her for a while, say something, listen to her babble, and then answer as if they were having a real conversation. This strange little conversation happened yesterday too. He asked her what she liked. The girl made some sound. He replied that he understood everything, and after that he asked to fall asleep, as if he thought that it would immediately obey him, and it would be so easy. She sometimes finds it interesting to look at him. He has an unusual appearance, but if there are no assistants nearby, staying with him can be dangerous, as in the case of the fish he was going to feed her. What about people who are half? She heard that they are not born with magic, and when she opened her eyes, the next day had already arrived. She was held in his arms by the power and reminded of its height that today was bath day. He told her that he would shift this responsibility onto her just in case, so that there would be no trouble later. And Yenny is already unhappy. The water is too similar to an experimental chamber. It gives her goosebumps. The girl tells her that even if she hates water, she needs to endure it, because it is not advisable to skip bath procedures. If the child or any other person is not clean, a rash will appear on the body very quickly. This time, Licht wanted to be close to the child. He saw how the girl was afraid of water and imagined what it was like for her to be in such a hopeless situation when she couldn't even refuse it, like an adult. She started crying very hard, mentally begging someone to help her because it was too much. If even a drop of water got on her body, she would experience the same stress as in the experimental chamber. At that moment, the guy asks, "What's the matter? Is she really so against this procedure?" And then the girl began to hope that he would be able to understand her. She reached out to him with her hand so that he would understand that this was true. She began to believe in a miracle, although it was unlikely that anyone would allow her to skip bathing. Without thinking for a second, he uses magic and makes the girl pass through the air into his hands. The assistant felt that her hands were frozen. She could not control them, and the child slipped out as if he had been blown away by the wind. Yenny was very happy. She doesn't even know what would have happened if he hadn't been in the room at that moment. And also, with the help of magic, he made it so that her body was cleansed even without water. She felt it and thought that it would be nice to do this every day. He asked her how she felt. Although he could see that everything was fine, he helped her, and one could even say, saved her. After that, His Majesty stroked her head and said that while she lived here in Myog, if something was wrong, she just needed to give her whatever she wanted. That was just 1 month, and exactly a year will pass since she came here, to Myog. And also, the girl began to pronounce simple vowels and is very happy about it. Until recently, Licht came every day, and sometimes even several times, he became like a father to her. And suddenly, out of the blue, he started talking about how people usually throw special parties on their birthdays. And if she wants, he can arrange something similar for her, in any style she wishes. He thinks it's a great idea to throw her first party, and to do it in a way that everyone will remember for the rest of their lives. But since that day he hasn't appeared for several days, but still, it seems that right now there is something more important than Licht. She seriously doesn't understand why she can't turn over. The girl has been trying for a very long time, but nothing works. From what she heard from the maids who discussed her, Yenny may be developing more slowly than normal children. Meanwhile, 2 maids and a boy came into her room, whom she had not seen before, but if she turned to the side, she would be able to see his face. This is the third prince. His name is Noha. He looks like a very sweet boy and even a little shy despite the fact that he is half wolf. She started waving her hands at him, calling him to her, wanting to see him closer. But for some reason he was hiding behind her skirt and wondering whether he needed it or not. He looks at her strangely, as if he is unhappy that there is another child in this house who is being given attention. At some point the boy did greet her, but he did it very loudly and rudely, although maybe it just seemed that way to her. Licht's younger brother, who wasn't supposed to be here, but apparently somehow slipped in and persuaded the maids. Suddenly, he immediately became much softer, admitted that he wanted to meet Yenny because he had never seen human children. Even though he was rude from the start, the girl still didn't pay attention to it and would also like to see him closer. They all came to her crib, and Noha said that she was kind of weird, probably because she didn't have ears on her head like all of them. She liked him right away. She said that he was very handsome, and these were the first words she said out loud and so clearly as if she was doing it not for the first time. Licht looks like he's scared of something, but he's actually happy. He just didn't think it would happen so soon. Then he realized that she only called his older brother handsome. He was a little upset, but when she said that she wanted to sleep, he immediately forgot about it and started kicking her out. The boy asked to stay here, but his brother was in a bad mood, so she didn't allow him and started throwing him out of the room. Noha asked to at least come to them later, but no one answered him, and they also kicked him out as if he were some kind of kitten. He said that it was very unpleasant, and Licht replied that it was unpleasant to hear that one of them was beautiful, but the other was kept silent. So they remained here alone. His Majesty closed the door very well so that no one else could come in here. Then he spoke to her and asked if she remembered their last conversation when he promised to throw her a party. She tells him that she remembers and would really like to celebrate her birthday in such a way that she will remember this day for the rest of her life. Birthday party. In her past life, the girl never even dreamed of such a thing, but now she won't have to strain herself. Everything will be done for her. And it also seems to her that he is doing this for a reason, as if he needs something from her. But so far he hasn't said a word about it. He is already lifting her up in his arms, trying to cheer her up, making sure she supports this idea. And now he asks her if she likes the idea or not, but he does it in such a way that she definitely agrees. The girl feels it. She begins to think that if she becomes strong enough to give him what he wants, she might be able to make a deal for her freedom. A month later, the palace garden. Only now can she hold a vertical position. Slow progress, but it still makes her very happy. Everyone around was very worried that she was growing so slowly. But the girl is catching up with the abilities that she should already have. The assistant even seemed to be happier than the child himself. They are now on a walk. The girl says that His Majesty called everyone from the Mio clan only for the sake of the princess's party. Even a walk in this court, in which only Mio is allowed to enter, is proof that she is revered and loved here. At that moment, a boy appeared nearby who was apparently eavesdropping on the conversation. But he couldn't help but ask if they were talking about Yenny by any chance. This was expected from him. The boy very often eavesdrops on other people. For him it is something like entertainment. He is the fourth prince. His name is Askari, and he is clearly unhappy that they have some princess. The assistant said that Her Highness had been brought here by His Majesty. She would be officially presented at tomorrow's banquet, but the girl did not even have time to finish everything she wanted to. As the Askari was already getting nervous, it was as if he was unhappy that there was someone in this house who was getting more attention than him. The girl already feels the unpleasant atmosphere. She remembers very well who reacts to her and how, and will treat these people the same way as they treat her. The elder brother comes. He very quickly calms down Askari. He immediately becomes kinder and no longer looks so bold and aggressive. He explained that the child was very important to them, that they needed to be gentler with her, especially since she was a girl and might be scared by such pressure. He made it clear to him that this should not happen next time, otherwise he would have to give him a lecture. After that, he said that the preparations for the holiday were already completed. They had everything ready. All that was left was to wait until tomorrow. He did everything himself, controlled everything, checked it several times. Everything should go flawlessly, as he promised. And in the meantime, the next day came. Yenny didn't even have time to wake up, as a whole mountain of gifts already appeared in her room, which she could sort through until the evening. And they also brought her an outfit in which she will meet guests today. This pink color, in the opinion of His Majesty, will ideally suit her beautiful, sweet, and gentle appearance. The girl had just woken up when there were already a lot of people around her. Several maids gathered around her and said that they also had gifts for her. Maybe not as chic and expensive, but from the heart, she immediately began to reach out to them, thanked them for their congratulations, and is already eager to open the boxes. When she was about to unpack her gifts, she was a little upset that they had very little time and it would be better if she did it in the evening, after the party. The assistants hurried. They dressed Yenny in this gorgeous dress, which His Majesty chose for a very long time. And he had just arrived, and when he saw the child, he even looked at her and was happy, because he had chosen a very nice outfit for her. She is very happy to see him. The girl immediately said that she is grateful to him for everything he did. She has no idea how much time, effort, and money it took. He tells her that she looks especially grown up today and promises that she will remember this day for a long time, and at the end of the day she will be the happiest. The assistant came to them. He also said a few pleasant words and noted that today was a particularly pleasant day and he already liked it. Then he offered to go with her because he came here to take her to the royal hall. Yenny admitted that she was afraid to see a lot of people like them there. Half animals. You never know how they would react to her. While they are walking into that hall, the assistant starts to calm her down. He says that there is no need to be afraid of these people. They are very well-mannered and polite, and also even some ordinary people are angrier than them. By order of His Majesty, the heads of noble houses representing Myeongj arrived with their families. There were more than 100 of them. For them, it was not much. But the girl heard this number and was surprised because she was not prepared for this. She thought there would be about 20 people there, and that would be a lot. But more than 100 would be too much. Licht tried to explain that there was nothing to be afraid of after all. People came to congratulate her, and not to intimidate her and spoil the holiday. At the moment when the door was already opened for them to come in and greet all the guests, he said very important words to her. As long as he, Licht el Persian, the patriarch of Myeong, is by her side, no one will dare to even touch her with bad intentions. And if someone dares to do this, he will be immediately punished. And there is a high probability that the next day this person will not be alive. They are already entering the hall. This was announced to all the guests, and even after such pleasant words, it is still somehow scary to see so many people. Each of them has ears. They are half animals. In such an environment, to feel calm as a child is quite a challenge. They hadn't even had time to enter the center of the hall before gossip began. Allegedly, is he really planning to accept a human child without blood ties into the royal family again? Most people don't even hide what they think. It's like they don't have such a concept as politeness or keeping quiet, especially in high society. She already feels the tense atmosphere. She can't relax, but she tried to believe that it would be very fun and calm here. After what she heard, she doesn't even want to say hello to such people. The question arises, what are they doing here if they are so unhappy to see her? His number also feels that people want to know more information, that it is high time for him to explain what is happening. So he decided to do it right now. He says he understands perfectly well that there has been a lot of confusion about the princess's sudden appearance. Then he added that this child is the Messiah spoken of in the prophecy. And if someone has something against her, then he is not keeping anyone here. It is important to him that only those who sincerely want to congratulate her on her birthday and wish her all the best remain here. He also reminded that, not long ago, one of them conspired with the recently punished high priest and revealed the prophecy about the Messiah. And he has more than enough grounds to declare this child a princess of Persiana and protect her. First of all, he turned to the Duke of Siam and asked if he did not agree with this, and if not, it would be a good idea to explain his position. The man says that if she is indeed the Messiah of prophecy, the Senate will submit to the will of His Majesty. The girls standing nearby were immediately surprised how the Duke even said that, because it meant that the child would really become a princess of Persiana. In this case, the guy may think that there are no more objections, but the girl is still unhappy. She is sure that they are doomed. He told her that not yet. He would tell her a little more when she was a little older. After that, the guy turned to her in front of everyone and said, "Welcome to the Persian family." Although he understands that these words were spoken out of spite to someone. Now it's clear why he said so many times that he would protect her and that no one would touch her. Apparently there are enough people around who want to do that. And in the meantime, the high priestess, the Duchess of Abyssinia, turned to him and said that everything was ready. She had done everything he asked for. After that, the girl came up to Yenny. She started to be touched and said that such a beautiful child could not help but be a princess. She greeted the noble girl who would save the Mio clan, and only next to her did Yenny feel a pleasant energy. But still, she's very embarrassed that she was called a family session without warning. She is not quite ready for this, after all. All this is very serious. Meanwhile, the guy remembered about the other children. He approached the assistant and asked how they were doing. She said that everything is as usual, everything is far from calm. But it would be strange to expect anything else from them. The second one still hasn't come out of his room. And the first one is still arrogant and can't accept the fact that they weren't taken with them. The assistant admitted that as for the second one, she has no idea what is going on in his head and what he thinks about so much. In any case, now attention needs to be paid to the birthday girl. The girl suggested starting the celebration. And Jenny hears all this and has no idea what they were preparing there all this time, and so diligently that they forbade the children to appear in the part of the house where all this was organized. Meanwhile, a man came up to the girl. He had a pillow in his hands, on which there were several objects. She had to choose one of them. And depending on what she chooses, what her life will be connected with, or what she will have in abundance, depends. He explained to her that it was a game. If she chose some object, they say that this object will appear in her hands most often, and maybe this will become the work of her whole life. For example, if she chooses a sword, she will become a swordsman or a knight. And if a pen, then a writer, and so on depending on the subject. At some point, His Majesty turns his head to the side and sees that even though he forbade the children to appear here, they still came. Yenny, without even looking in that direction, immediately felt a terrible energy. It was obvious that Ascari was still wary of her. She tried not to pay attention to them, because if they saw that she was looking at them, they might even deliberately ruin the whole holiday. The assistant thought that the girl was afraid to touch these objects, so he explained again that this was a game. She needed to choose one of these objects at her discretion. Despite her young age, she approached this choice very seriously and did not choose just anything. Finally, she chose her item, and at that moment everyone was watching very carefully to be the first to see what she took. Yenny chose the brightest item. It signifies holiness, and, as it seemed to her, looked better than the others. Those two were upset again, although most likely, no matter what she chose, the reaction would have been exactly the same. His Majesty grabbed her so tightly that she could hardly breathe, and at the very last moment hinted that he should let her go. Then she asked to explain what her choice meant, and the guy started by saying that he really wanted her to choose this particular subject. That golden star means that in the future, when she grows up, she will become a saint who has magic. At least there is such a possibility. He himself is already looking forward to this moment, and these words began to stress her out again, although it would seem that he didn't say anything like that. Out of the blue, she started running away and ran to one of those boys that she liked from the very beginning. She even dared to walk through the crowd of people, which means she needs something from him. He didn't think she would come up to him, and yet it was very sweet and nice. He hadn't seen such small children for a long time and immediately wanted to hold her hands. Yenny gave him her star because she remembers one moment, because of which she actually chose it. It turns out it wasn't just like that. She chose this star because he had said before that he really wanted to get it. When he looked at her with a thoughtful look, the girl thought that he didn't like her and immediately got upset. He immediately explained that he simply did not expect this and thought that she simply asked him to hold her, after which he thanked her and admitted that it was very nice. The girl wanted to stay with him and started asking how old he was to get to know him better. He replied that he would be 3 this year, and also said that he doesn't really like such holidays, because all these people who come to congratulate come only to eat delicious food and congratulate only out of politeness. Only now, Jenny realized that he's only 2 years older than her. She knows that people like him can grow up faster, but she didn't think that it would be that much before she was sure that he was at least 5 or 6. But that's not true. Then I thought that in any case, it seems that Noha does not feel any attachment or disgust towards people. It is worth getting closer to him normally. After all, she does not have any friends yet, and he would be a good ally. She suggested that they start getting along from that day on. For him, it sounded incredibly sweet, and he had already forgotten that just recently he had disliked her, albeit over trifles. The boy agreed. He was very glad that she suggested it. He became interested in what it would be like to be friends with her, because he was already tired of constantly being with his brother. In the end, the holiday went more or less normally. Yenny was already asleep, and suddenly, Licht came to her to tell her what he completely forgot to say during the day. At first, the girl didn't understand what was happening. She thought it was a dream. And then she woke up and said that she was listening to him carefully. At that moment, she didn't even think about how serious this conversation would be. The guy sighed heavily, then exhaled and was forced to say that starting tomorrow he would be out of town for a while, and after that she had her first question for him. How long will it last? A few days, weeks, maybe a month. But he will be gone a little longer. He is leaving for 3 years. He himself did not plan anything like this, but unfortunately, there is a risk that he will stay much longer. He explained that something very important had happened and he couldn't stay and not leave. He also asked Noha to help her with bathing, if she needs anything. They will definitely help her. But now she is not interested in this. He said that as long as he was around, she would be completely safe. But now it is unclear whether it is dangerous for her to go outside the estate or communicate with adults. He promises to return as soon as possible, although this does not sound reassuring at all, but works exactly the opposite. Jenny can't comprehend what she just heard. She automatically wished him well, but she doesn't yet understand what it all means. The guy himself understands that the child hasn't realized anything yet. As soon as he leaves here, he's even scared to imagine how she will feel. Licht, who came to her without an invitation, left, saying goodbye and, as he said, did not return for 3 years. The girl thought that it would be harder, but time flew by somehow unnoticed. She started to get interested in books, grew up and already feels at home here. Of course, she misses him, but not as much as she thought. Yenny has learned to walk, so she often runs away and no one notices. The assistants sometimes get tired when they have to look for her all over the house, but they are already used to it. After all, everyone understands that she is still a child, and she is not interested in sitting in one place so that everyone is comfortable. Most often, Alice looks after her Yi. She loves children very much and never stops talking every day about how a princess can be so sweet and beautiful. The girl says that today Jenny will have to take lessons with Prince Askari because that is what is required by age. The girl promised that she would carry out the plan, although she can't imagine how she will make friends with this man, who didn't accept her from the first day she got into this house. Their teacher will be Count British. Very soon she will see him and will be able to get acquainted. The assistant also said that in the afternoon there would be etiquette lessons with the Scottish Marchioness, as ordered by the gentleman. In fact, the girl is not upset because she does not yet know what awaits her. And when she has a couple of lessons, then she will understand what it is, whether she likes it or not. Meanwhile, they have already approached the room where the lesson will take place. Only the child can go further, and the assistant should remain in the corridor. This is done so that the child gets used to independence and learns to come to lessons without adults in case someone fails to conduct it. She wished her all the best, and if something unpleasant happens or someone offends her, after the lesson the girl will listen to everything and take action. She carefully opened the door, entered the office, and greeted Millie. He was the first person she saw. It's strange that he's here because the lesson has already started, and someone else should have been the teacher. It's a bit strange. Just now, Alice said that there would be one person here, but in fact it's another. Says he understands how surprised she is now and believes he needs to introduce himself properly. He introduced himself as Mirren British, head of the British family, which means he is usually called by his shortened name, and Alice might not know the guy was an earl. The guy says that among the palace staff only Mary Ye, her nanny, knows this information, but now Yen knows it too. He gave her the first book, promising that he would try to make the lesson as exciting and easy as possible. The girl looked around, saw her, so to speak, classmate. And it is not surprising that he does not hide his emotions. He is out loud indignant about what she is doing here. He does not even want to be in the same office with her, not to mention studying together. The teacher explained that he couldn't do anything about it. That was the order, and they had to follow it whether anyone liked it or not. He also said that no one is forcing them to sit together. They can find places for themselves in different corners of this room. Out of the blue, he finally calmed down and didn't even think to apologize for his behavior. It's hard to say when she'll be able to get used to this person. Also because he's much older, she feels danger, especially when there are few people around. She tried her best not to notice him. After all, now she needs to focus on knowledge so that there won't be problems with exams later. Yenna chose a seat away from him, opened her notebook and began to listen attentively to the teacher, even though she didn't really want to. He came up to the board, suggested to start, and the topic of today's lesson, as it turned out, was very interesting. He told about the great archmage Akamaru, who, together with the 12 sages of the Magic Tower, put an end to the war between humans and humans, who are half-beasts. He also united the 8 kingdoms into an empire. This was a very significant event, but peace did not come immediately. First sage, Lion, deep sense of inferiority towards Akamar. In the end, after the war ended, Lion betrayed Akamaru, and at his hands, Akamaru was imprisoned in a dungeon that suppressed magic. The powerless Akamaru was offered a deal within the prison walls by the heir of the old Persian family. In exchange for saving them, they will make the cat tribe leaders of the half-beast people, and with godlike power create a world exclusively for feline creatures. This is the backstory of how the feline tribe rose to the top of the food chain. The teacher said again that the direct descendants of the Persian family, who inherited the blood of Akamaru, are born with magical powers. Now the girl understood why Licht and other principals can use magic. For her, it was very interesting. She even said that it turned out that it was a union between a human and a human who is half-beast, and then asked a question about what would happen if instead of a cat, an ordinary human child was born. To which the teacher replied that it was a very good question and he was glad that the student listened to him so attentively. Then he said that an ordinary human child born to such a couple had already been sent to the imperial family as an heir. This child was the only one among Akamaru's descendants who was not born with magical powers. There is a rumor that Akamaru mercilessly executed the sages who betrayed him. Now it is clear why the family of magicians disappeared in the human kingdom. The teacher also added that due to Akamaru's tyrannical actions, the cat god, feeling threatened, could take away magic from humans. So the story goes. The girl thought it was very fascinating, But if she really was 4 years old, she wouldn't have understood half of what she heard. Meanwhile, the lesson came to an end. Mirren is very happy that they both did well. As they say, as the first day of school goes, so will the whole school year go. And in the meantime, Nohu is already running to him. He enters the office without permission. Tears appear in his eyes, and he says some words in a hurry that are impossible to understand. The teacher asks what happened. There are two of you sitting there too. I don't understand what's going on. And is it really that important that he burst in without knocking? The boy says something terrible has happened. His brother is already here, but that's not all. The bad news is that he was seriously injured. He was feeling very bad now, and he himself had just found out about it. That's why he was nervous. Everyone immediately ran to look at Licht. No one believes that he could have been hurt. They are very scared to imagine how serious it is. Yene was running really fast. She didn't think anyone would stop so suddenly, so she bumped her forehead into someone's back. Then she saw that it was Ascari. For some reason he stopped, and she behind him doesn't even see what's going on there. She saw only his surprised face, as if he was afraid to go further or did not know how much it was necessary. She immediately became interested in what or who he saw there. The girl looked out to look for literally 1 second, and she saw a guy there whom she didn't know yet. But judging by his face, she guessed that it was someone from the family. It turns out that this is the second prince. His name is Ignis. After taking a closer look, the girl then realized that, judging by his blue eyes, which are inherited only in the Persian family, he was obviously a second principal, and she was even surprised that she hadn't realized it right away. The teacher came up to them. He said that there was something wrong with His Majesty's magic. He thought that the guy would somehow react or help them, but no. Ignis replied that there was nothing to be done. He would have to leave, even though they had just met. It sounded very ugly on his part. He said that they would definitely see each other next time and have a normal conversation because now it would not work out. Meanwhile, the girl looked to the side and saw a ginger cat, but did not immediately realize that it was an Ascari's. His expression is so scared it seems like the second principal could have scolded him somehow, and maybe something happened between them. The girl thought that she wouldn't listen to her anyway, so it would be better to bring someone who could help, and probably it would be better to find someone who understood this situation better. Then she looked around again, made sure that no one else was there, and spoke to him again. Then she told him that she doesn't know why he is afraid of the second prince, but he can't just solve this problem by running away. She understands him very well because she used to run away too, but she wants to give him advice that he needs to be braver and not be afraid to look fear in the eye. If he continues to avoid everything, they are faced with it face to face. In the end, he is simply on credit to himself and will not be able to learn courage, and this will be especially offensive in adulthood, when it will be extremely difficult to change. After that, she went somewhere further and suddenly, Ascari apparently got angry that she decided to teach him about life and immediately turned into a human. It was unacceptable for him to hear what she told him, and this is not surprising given his character, but for some reason, he shows himself to be brave. But in reality, he hides like a kitten. He already regretted showing her his weak side. It was very awkward, and if he had the opportunity, he would gladly go back. At that moment, he remembers his brother's words, asking him to take care of Yen, no matter what, even if it was unbearable. He is so tired of her that he already wants to give in and break his promise, as if nothing had happened. But for now, she can be tolerated, and he does not give in until the very end. Meanwhile, the girl had already run into her favorite place. Here she had something to do. She remembered how they said that something was wrong with the Licht's power, and probably she was the only one who seriously wanted to figure it out. She plans to find the root of the problem, although she has looked through several books on the subject and has already found something. In one of the books, there is a part about anomalies of forces, and here she stopped so as not to miss anything interesting. Anomalies of strength usually occur in two cases. First, when a strength close to its prime is temporarily overloaded, and second, when too much strength is taken away. At first, she didn't understand what it meant and how she could use this information, but then she thought about it. Licht's coming of age was a long time ago, so his power had already blossomed a long time ago. Then this must be the second case, but who on earth could do this to him? Surely a very brave and courageous person. In this case, it is written that the power will be restored as soon as it returns to the owner. Yen thinks about each phrase, because at first it seems to her that it is not important, and then she understands that this is very valuable information. It seems to her that if the second principal places power in Lichta, he should wake up soon. For now, this is her only option on how to help him. Going out into the corridor, she saw Millie and Alice. They were obviously standing there for a very long time and discussing something very important. You can see that they are both very excited. She immediately wanted to listen to the conversation. But they will see her right away. The girl says that it is very bad that Ignis failed to transfer his power, and as soon as the girl heard this name, she immediately came up and asked if they meant the second prince, and then apologized for overhearing their conversation. The lady said that everything was fine, and then reminded that it was too late and began to hint that some people needed to go to rest. And she also asked how the classes went, probably just to distract the child. But she didn't succeed, and at that moment, Yenny thinks if she can give a little of her power to Lisht, so as not to waste time. Especially since his room is right next to hers, so if she can just move over, everything will work out. She pretended to listen to them, but she was already thinking about how to get to the Licht without anyone noticing, especially at a time when everyone was walking along the corridors, checking if everything was okay. Then she remembered her ability to move and really wanted to know if she could use it. Fortunately, thanks to the memories from her past life, Yene can draw power, but she hasn't done it for a long time, and that's the only problem. She decided to try to imitate how Licht casts spells. She has a very good visual memory, but that doesn't guarantee anything. She started praying that it would work, that she would go straight to his room and not have to make her way down the hallway. After that, she couldn't control her powers for a bit. She started flying in the air and thought that that was it. Nothing would work, and she needed to think about how to get back to the floor. But at some point, the situation changed dramatically and she realized that everything worked. It was very exciting, but at the same time, incredibly interesting. It's just a pity that she hasn't yet learned to land softly. It was a little painful, but the main thing is that she fulfilled her main goal, appeared in this room. She rose to her feet, came closer to his bed, and since it was already very late, it turned out that he had been asleep for a long time and did not see how she appeared here. It would be good so that he doesn't get scared when he opens his eyes and sees someone nearby. Jenny first touches his hand, tried to do it very gently so that he doesn't get scared. She knows that everyone is very sensitive after sleep, so she even thought that maybe he shouldn't be woken up at all. The girl tried to bring back that feeling from the past. It was said there that high compatibility with the Force is necessary. So as not to waste time, she immediately began to act, although she is very unsure of the result. She mentally hopes that he doesn't reject everything here that she's going to do now. She just concentrated and didn't notice how he opened his eyes. It's clear that he was a little scared, but he held back so as not to scare her too. It would be nice to know if he understood what was happening here or not. Yenna pretended everything was fine, as if there was nothing wrong with her being there and what she had just done. He grabbed his head and asked how she got here. It was simply impossible, considering her age and how often the maids walked along the corridor and checked the situation. Now he's thinking about the fact that he obviously passed out after the crystal sucked out his power. Since he's here, that means he was saved, but by whom? He has no idea. The girl asks how he feels because it really matters to her, like even more than to everyone else. When suddenly, out of the blue, she begins to feel that something is happening to her. She feels her heart, but it is something bad. The guy immediately realized that something was wrong. He got very nervous, and she still didn't say anything, and it was difficult to understand what was going on. The girl can't say anything, but it feels like a fire has been lit in her chest and throat. But this has never happened before. She begins to slowly close her eyes, and he has already forgotten that he himself feels bad and began to worry about her. Then he began to scream loudly and called someone for help. Yenna tries to open her eyes, but as soon as she does, she realizes that her vision is becoming blurrier and blurrier with each passing second. It's a very strange feeling. A little blood appears on her face and she doesn't see herself from the outside yet. Otherwise, she would definitely lose consciousness. The assistant came. He did everything he could, examined her, and concluded that this was not at all an unusual dizziness. She got internal damage from using the Force. She didn't have to do it, but who knew it would end like this? It became clear that she had used too much of her power. But fortunately, something could be done about it. And for now, she needs rest, at least for the next few days. Everything would be fine. But Lichta is interested in the question of when she can use Force at all. He is confused at least by her age and the fact that she hasn't even really learned how to do it. On the one hand, he is very pleased that she made such sacrifices for him. But on the other hand, it seems to him that it was not worth it. Yen wanted to do what was best for him, but she ended up in this place and only attracted a lot of attention to herself. Maybe he will at least remember where her kindness is and will not scold her too much for this act. She still wanted what was best. At some point, when she was sleeping, she began to see in front of her those very memories that haunt her to this day. She remembered with you the terrible day from those experiments, as if she saw in front of her the face of the person who almost ruined her life. The sensations were so vivid that she seriously thought that she was experiencing these moments for real. This voice gave her goosebumps, complete disgust at everything that was happening. This was the worst thing she had ever experienced. Even in a dream, everything feels so terrible that I no longer want to exist in this world or experience anything at all. In the end, the girl didn't stay long. She woke up, and when she saw a familiar room in front of her, she relaxed, but not right away. It was very good that Licht was next to her. He immediately calmed her down, stroked her head, and said that it was just a nightmare and everything was not real. He is very glad that she woke up, even if it was from a nightmare, but still, it's not bad. He thought that today this would not happen, but it's like this. It would seem that it would be undesirable to talk to her about any sad topics, to accuse her of anything. But for some reason he didn't think about it. He started asking if she realized what she had done. He would never cease to be amazed at how she, so small, manages to create not small problems, and he had not yet remembered about magic, which, as he thought, was generally beyond her control. He thought that she would now start making excuses, getting sad, apologizing. But the girl immediately said that thanks to her efforts, he is now alive and feels much better. He looked at her as if he didn't know what to say to that, but that's true. The girl was right and did what adults are sometimes afraid to do. She was ready to risk herself just for the sake of him waking up and surviving. And that is worth a lot, especially from the side of a child who still has his whole life ahead of him. In that case, the guy says that since she is so drawn to magic and she is very good at it, then it is better for her to study in this direction, and if she listens to him, he will even fulfill some of her wishes. Also, if she wants, he himself can become her teacher and will teach magic every day. But now it's late and he suggests going to bed. Yena knows very well where her room is. Unfortunately, he won't be able to take her there, and she has already started pretending as if she fell asleep and is not going to go anywhere. Meanwhile, the next day came. Surprisingly, after everything that happened, she slept well and felt well. Although the doctor asked to provide her with rest, the girl went to classes from the very morning. She really wanted Licht to give her a magic lesson as he promised, but for some reason he wasn't there, although half an hour had already passed and he should have arrived a long time ago. So she sat through the whole lesson, didn't really remember anything because she thought that Licht was about to take her to a magic lesson, but that didn't happen. When suddenly, when it was time to leave, her classmate starts shouting very loudly and asks if she really told his brother about what happened that day in the hallway. After that, she could have not answered him at all, but she still said that she had not told anyone anything, because she thought he might tell them after she left, so she didn't tell Alice or anyone else. So he doesn't have to worry. His reputation hasn't gotten any worse. He really doesn't understand how this is possible, because he was sure that everyone already knows how he got scared and turned into a kitten. In his opinion, she acted as if she wanted everyone to know about it. He was already prepared for the shame, but now he realized that he was wrong about her. The girl answered him that she is more secretive and smarter than he thinks. So in such situations, she always acts according to her conscience, simply puts herself in the place of the person she could embarrass and does not do so. Anyway, she's having an etiquette lesson now and doesn't have time to discuss a situation that no longer makes any sense. He calmed down, and that's enough. And in the meantime, she's already on her way to the next lesson and again hopes to see Lichty. Yene accidentally meets No and remembers that she hasn't talked to him for a long time, but she herself offered to become friends. She felt very awkward and uncomfortable in front of him, but there was no time to explain why it happened. She approached him briefly to ask how he was doing and what he was doing there, but it would have been very wrong of her to pass by. It turns out he knew she was feeling bad, so he immediately asked how she was feeling, because that was much more important. She told him that everything was fine, and thanked him for his concern, and then admitted that she didn't think that he would find out about everything so quickly. She didn't think that he would be upset. But since that was the case, there was nothing to hide anymore. Since he was so lucky to see her, he asked in advance whether she was free tomorrow or not, because he had long wanted to show her something. The guy intrigued her. She really liked such surprises and immediately wanted to know what it was and what time he planned to show it to her. It's just a pity that she has classes every day and their free time may not coincide, but she promised that she would try to get free in advance or think of something. In the end, they agreed to meet tomorrow. He would pick her up and admitted that he was very glad that they would finally spend time together. Yen completely forgot that she was rushing to etiquette class, apologized and said that she had to go. He told her that he was glad to see her, and also apologized if he made her late for her teachers. She was so preoccupied with what awaited her tomorrow that she even forgot to say goodbye to him properly. And he was so glad that they talked that he didn't even pay attention to it. You can see how happy he is now. Unlike how she met him, this means that she means a lot to him, and the friendship agreement was not empty words. Meanwhile, in the etiquette lesson, everything happens much more difficult than in other classes. It all comes so hard to her that she has to repeat it 10 or even 20 times in a row. Ascari's birthday, so they would need to work especially hard on their manners in the next few days. She really wants their efforts to be visible and for these lessons not to go to waste, as usually happens. Madame Scottish is so strict that the girl has no opportunity to do something half-heartedly. It is as if she must master everything from the first time, since the Mio clan lives closed. Banquets are held rarely, but this one is arranged in honor of the first growth of Ascari. Growth. This is a unique phenomenon for humans who are half-beasts. Most of them go through 2 growth phases in their lives, but the direct descendants of the Persian family have 3s. Happens during the first 3 years of life, at least that's what Alice said. And the girl remembered it right away. The second growth occurs in adolescence, and the last, in adulthood, is accompanied by fever and a magical awakening. Being a person who is half human and half beast is not easy. She already understood that. Meanwhile, after lessons that fly by like a couple of minutes, etiquette class seems like it takes forever. The teacher says that you need to concentrate because they still have half the time, but it feels like it lasts the whole day. Yenna says that she is already very tired. She needs to rest and promised that if they stop right now, then next time she will study even harder. Out of the blue, without any warning, Licht comes in and asks when her class will end. At first she was very happy. She thought that he had come to pick her up, but he started saying that she was somehow too relaxed and was not taking the lesson seriously. But he doesn't know that this is not the best time to look at her productivity. The day started very hard and otherwise, she is very good at everything. It's just a pity that he made a conclusion only based on this situation. And then the girl notices that the guy is kind of upset. It's as if he's deliberately not looking in her direction, and she learned the reason for this from the assistant. He suggested that the gentleman doesn't really like bears, in any form, even if it's a toy, so much so that he can't even look at it. The girl never thought that such a thing could happen. And meanwhile, in the hallway, the boy heard his brother's voice and decided to come over to check how he was feeling. While he was still outside the door, he managed to hear that his older brother had a special gift for the princess. And after that, he asked Millie to make a new toy, a big cat, because if he saw her with a bear, he would be very upset. Naturally, the borrower is unhappy that too much has been done for Yenny lately, and also this special gift. The boy noticed that since the princess had woken up, Licht had been doing nothing but taking care of her, even more than he did of his own brothers. He even changed his mind about going to them. It was offensive to hear all this, so he went back. He doesn't want to see any of them. His mood is ruined for the whole day, but, in fact, everything is very simple. He just wants to be in Yen's place. But he will never say it himself and will not even admit it to himself. Meanwhile, the gentleman said that the etiquette lesson would have to be finished after all. He had some plans for the girl, and she was only happy about it. He felt that the child wanted to rest and came just in time. Finally, the teacher asked her not to forget to repeat today's lesson because tomorrow she would check how much she remembered. Yenny promised that she would do everything and wished her a good day. They didn't even have time to go out into the corridor when they heard a strange sound. Maybe they would have passed by, but the sound came straight from her room. It looks like something broke or fell, but there shouldn't have been anyone in the room. And after the boy left hurt, it could all be connected somehow. The assistant says that as far as she knows, the 4th prince suddenly appeared. And also, he began to look for the doll that Mr. Ignis gave the girl. The girl's thoughts at that moment. Just don't tell me that envy woke up in him because of the gift that only she got, because knowing the principal, he can hardly let this situation pass him by. Or rather, for this to happen, a miracle must happen. Meanwhile, they open the door to the room and Lich says that it doesn't matter what the reason is. It was still reckless behavior and the boy should be punished. He is no longer a little child and understands perfectly well that usually you have to answer for something like that. They saw Ascari from the doorway. He was hiding under the bed and even covered himself with a white blanket, as if he thought that this way he would become invisible. The elder brother ordered him to come out immediately and tell what had just happened, otherwise he would punish him for his silence as well. Yenna is sure that he just wanted Licht's attention. But in fact, that's true. She's too good at these situations. She began to ask His Majesty to have pity on her brother, to which he replied that he was not going to forgive the prince for such behavior, because if it continued like this, it could affect their family reputation. Then she told him that she thought she understood why he was acting like that, and then asked him to leave them alone for just 1 minute. Licht didn't really want to leave her here, after all. He feels his brother's true attitude towards her, but in the end he agreed. He just said that as soon as she senses danger, she should immediately go out or call someone for help at the top of her voice. Ascari got even more angry that he was left here with her alone. He even started to growl slightly, but this did not scare her. The girl started talking to him directly, as if they were adults. She asked if he was afraid that she would take all of Licht's attention and he would start feeling lonely. Naturally, it was unbearable to hear this from her. He immediately crawled out from under the bed and started yelling at her. How dare she say such a thing? She tells him that it is not so. The boy thought that she would get scared and call someone for help, but no. This was the first time she told him the truth. Namely, that the reason Licht adopted her was because she was the Messiah. Just in case he didn't understand why she told him this, she had to explain that everything wasn't as wonderful as it seemed from the outside. Because the attention that everyone envies from Lichta is all fake, he does it only because she is someone, and not just like that. At first, the boy was surprised. Then he began to think how true this could be. And for several minutes, he just stood motionless. Then he asked what she was saying and asked her not to think anymore that he was so naive and could believe it, as if she could come up with something better. In the end, he didn't even listen to her, didn't want to discuss it, just started leaving the room and asked her not to get underfoot. And he also said that she would never become part of their family, no matter who she was. Although the girl understood this perfectly well, this is exactly what she had just told him. Ascari wanted to go outside. He came to a place where no one would find him in the near future and began to think what to do now. He feels like his brother must be disappointed in him, and his own pride is preventing him from trying to fix everything. He is still haunted by the fact that he was scared of a big toy and only damaged his authority. In fact, it was something like this. After he overheard that conversation in the hallway, he went into her room, but he didn't think the toy would be so big. He thought about ruining it somehow, throwing it away or doing something that would upset Yen, but everything didn't go according to plan. There was a toy in the room that was so huge that it barely fit in height. He had never seen anything like it before. In fact, if someone else had entered this room, any person would have been just as scared. But he perceived his reaction as a real disgrace. Now it's clear what he was doing under the bed. And in the meantime, the next day began, and those same promised magic lessons from Licht began. To be honest, the girl was a little worried. But he teaches theory so well that everything happens easily, quickly, and unnoticeably, as if she always knew it. At some point, he looked at her and suddenly switched to another topic. Started to say that the color of a magician's hair, regardless of his genetics, takes the same color as the magical power he is born with. Not everyone knows this fact, but he thought she would be interested to know it. Looking at the color of her eyes and hair, he wondered which parent she took after, and then she had memories. Even though she doesn't really remember anything, her mother's silhouette appears before her eyes, and her voice, "My girl, you must survive at any cost. Be smart." So she told him that she most likely looks like her mother, because she never saw her father. And after that, she asked who he looks like. He doesn't have his own vision, so he said that, as Millie thinks, he has his father's face and his mother's character. His father, the former head, suffered from an incurable disease that paralyzed him shortly before his son's birthday. His mother also died shortly after from shock. But if the girl had known, she would not have reminded him of this. She imagines how hard it was for him to answer this question, but he doesn't show it and asks if she isn't curious about what her parents looked like and if she has tried to find out somehow. Yen thought that if she were a 7-year-old child, she would definitely ask this question with enviable frequency. And she also didn't like that he didn't know how to ask such questions delicately. She even took back all her pity for him. In the end, she replied that she was not interested in it, and he did not understand how this was even possible, because any child would be interested and even vital to know this information. The girl says that everything is very simple. If she sees them in photographs or hears a description from someone, she will become very sad. He had not expected such an answer. He even regretted that he had started talking about this topic and realized that if the topic of parents was no different for him from others, then in her case it was not so. The guy wanted to apologize. Suddenly he somehow offended her, but a lump appeared in his throat and he couldn't say a single word. Yene stood up from her chair. She kept an eye on the time and saw that the lesson had already ended a long time ago, so she shook him a good day and went about her business. Before she could leave, he gave her homework that she would have to do tonight because they had their next lesson tomorrow. And also, he asked to be sure to learn all the formulas of magic circles written in this book by next week. She can't imagine how it's possible to learn all this. It's like a whole textbook. And this is their first lesson, and it seems like it's somehow too much. She even thought that this was some kind of punishment. But no, if she learned and remembered all this, he promised to reward her. And in the meantime, for a month now, someone continues to leave flowers on the terrace and she comes every time to see if that someone left a flower today. She even has some guesses as to who might be doing this. Although she thinks that these are some kind of children's games, she still really enjoys coming every time and taking different flowers with her. She thinks that this is all a scary that he wants to apologize for his behavior, and she also thinks that he is still too young to understand the subtleties of how to properly apologize to women. But something tells her that she is a little mistaken. Meanwhile, a friend came up to her. He felt that she was there, but Yen was a little scared because she didn't expect to see him here. Noah asked if she had forgotten that he was here very often, and he was also upset because she didn't seem happy to see him. It's weird, but instead of greeting him normally, she asked him what brought him here at such a time, as if hinting that he should not be here and that it's not so great that they met. At least that's how he understood it. Noah reminded that he already said that he would find her. Although he was a little sad, he smiles and pretends as if she did not offend him. At some point, he asked her to give him her hand and asked if she can help him with something. He started lifting her into the air with magic and didn't think that she might get too scared. Then he began to rise into the air with her. They began to fly very slowly, but this feeling of weightlessness does not relax her at all. The girl asks where they are going, and he says that it is a secret place that she has definitely never been to and probably didn't even know it existed. They covered quite a distance. He made it so that she could walk on water and so that her feet would not get wet. And then she asks how sure he is that they can come here. Noah reminded that they are royalty. They can be anywhere except one place. She asked him what this place was, and it turns out he was talking about the dungeon of the main palace. Only the patriarch can access it and no one else. The girl wanted to talk to him about it. She was so carried away that she didn't notice how they had already arrived at that very secret place. A friend says she's the second person he's ever brought here, and then asked her to look in the direction of the beautiful view. Some glowing objects appeared in the air. She had never seen anything like this or heard of fireflies, but that's what they are. She can't just admire them, she liked to touch them. They are so weightless, like stars. As soon as she thought about the stars, she looked at the sky and was so surprised when she realized that there was not a single star there. Literally, not a single one. She doesn't understand how she didn't notice it before. Although perhaps this is just the kind of place it is, and in other places everything is there. Apparently, the boy thought that the walk would look different somehow. He feels that his girlfriend has somehow cooled towards him and does not understand why. Even though she smiles, he still sees that something is wrong with her. And in order not to remain silent, he began to tell that Myoge is a dimension removed by magic, which means that celestial bodies do not exist here. She only now realized that this is the whole secret. She was here all the time, and thought that there were stars in the sky, but all this time, they were not there. She asks why he didn't tell her this before, and in a voice as if he owes her something. Noah said that it was all because his father often read him fairy tales when he was alive, stories about constellations that only exist in the human world. He also said that they were like maps spread out in the sky and he always dreamed of seeing it. The girl's thoughts at that moment, just think that he read him stories like that so often. Noah's father must have been a kind man. The guy says that's why he also wants to bring the stars to Myog so that other people can see it. It's so beautiful. You can look at them for hours, but the question arises, how will he do it, and does he really have any ideas? He replied that everything was very simple. It would be possible to use the sacred relic of Akamaru, which she had recently given him. Only now Yen finds out that this thing was so valuable, and if she knew, she probably would have kept it for herself. The boy heard that the relic even contains the sacred power of the last priestess. If his brothers hear this, they will ask him to stop dreaming about such things, so for now he can only tell her his plan. That's why she's the only one he can count on, and knows that she will always support any of his ideas. After all, she is the messiah of the Mio clan. In return, he is even ready to fulfill any wish that she makes. In fact, the girl doesn't like it when people talk about it. She tried not to answer him, but at the same time she thought that the friend most likely does not even realize what he is saying. In the end, she agreed to help him. although she has no idea what exactly is needed from her. No matter how it sounds, Yenny agreed for a reason. After all, someday his help might be useful to her too. She just thought ahead in that case. He began to tell that firstly, he plans to find the command to activate the relic in the Great Temple. She just heard about the Great Temple, she thought. Wasn't it there that the prophecy about her was given? If so, she might be able to find more information there related to this prophecy. And she also mentally apologized to her friend, which is not only out of the kindness of her heart. She even feels a little ashamed, but there's nothing she can do. After all, she has her own things to do. And in the meantime, the girl agrees and pretends that she just wants to help her. At that moment, for some reason he wanted to ask her one unusual question, which he wanted to ask some time ago. He wants to start calling her by her nickname, and as soon as he asked about it, at first she didn't even understand what the point was. Noha recalled that she had said that now it was not a family, so he thought that maybe it would be okay to call her more casually. She immediately told him that of course she didn't mind, although he thought that she would think about it and not give an answer right away. Even though the guy feels some tension between them, he is still very happy that she is kind to him and does not refuse him anything. And in the meantime, the next day has already arrived. Everyone is waiting for the princess to get ready. After all, the banquet is about to begin, and even the fourth prince has already arrived, to which she asked to let him in. The guy came into the room. She met him and started bragging about her dress, even though she understands that he doesn't care what she's wearing. She was unlikely to receive compliments from him, but she asked how this dress suited her, if it didn't suit her at all. Basically, she's already looked at herself in the mirror and understands that she looks pretty good, but his opinion is also important to her. He started to get indignant that she was saying such things, and could she really have thought that he would seriously start giving her some compliments? She realized that he didn't even want to talk about it, so she drew his attention to the vase of flowers and asked him how he liked it. Ascari again did not understand what she imagined and what all these questions were for. He even blushed and asked why she was asking him this. The girl laughed sweetly and then said that he leaves them to be rubbed every evening to apologize, and now they have made a whole bouquet. At that moment, he couldn't believe his ears. He left the room in a second, because if she said anything else, he simply wouldn't be able to stand it. It seems that it is not he who leaves her flowers, and she is very much mistaken that this is how he tries to apologize to her. She didn't have time to think about the situation before a man approached her. She saw it from the shadow that appeared on the floor. This is Ignis E. She didn't think he would show up at all, and he's already asking how to address her better, by name or call her Messiah. It seems to her that most likely he came again to get the Ascari, as it was last time, and she doesn't like it anymore. Lately, there's been too much from all sides that makes Ascari angry, and I'd like him to rest for at least some time. The guy asks why she's quiet and says that it looks too cold on her part. Yen doesn't try to be nice to him. She immediately says that if he's here, that you're making fun of someone again, then he can leave right now. He just laughed at these words, as if he had never done this before and did not understand where she got this from, and also called her fearless, which sounded like some kind of threat. Apparently after that, Ascari will not be the only one he wants. While she was talking to him, she didn't notice that the person they were discussing was passing by. The girl very timely ordered Ignis not to think of mocking the Ascari, and he heard it. The guy couldn't believe his ears at first. He never thought that she would say something like that to anyone. And why would she? She's like an enemy to him. And only now he realized that she doesn't consider him that way. It seems to him that since the princess speaks so boldly to her elders, defending him, it means that she is not as bad as he thought. Meanwhile, Noha appeared in the corridor. He didn't know that Ignis was here. He just wanted to ask if Yen found it Ascari. She told him that he was nowhere here. Ignis felt ignored and got angry again for no reason. Even though the guy heard all this, he still didn't go up to them because everyone would think that he was eavesdropping on them. Although that's true, he started walking straight down the corridor as if nothing had happened, and his head was now a complete mess. He was already confused about what he thought about the princess. Out of habit, he began to accuse her of taking away his brother's attention. And then he remembered her words that it was not as he saw it, that the true attitude towards her is fake, and if she didn't have any powers, she would be an empty space, exactly the same as he feels now. He, as always, went outside to be alone. It is easier for him to think and much calmer, because when someone appears nearby, he automatically becomes irritable. Ascari closed his eyes, sat down on the floor and began to think all the bad things about her, as he had thought before, as if ignoring the fact that she was telling and doing things to him. Calmly opens his eyes and sees her in front of him. At the same moment, he feels some kind of panic. She, as usual, appears out of nowhere and it scares him. At first he didn't understand anything. He was absolutely calm, but as soon as he realized that as soon as she thought about it, she immediately appeared, he screamed and said very unpleasant words. He started behaving like a scared kitten again. He doesn't control his behavior, and then he will regret it again. And she just came to say that the banquet would start soon. She was holding back very much so as not to yell at him as well. He tells her that if she is not invited somewhere, then there is no need to disturb a person who just wants to be alone. He was tired of her constantly chasing him, although the princess just wanted the best so that he would not be late and other people would not look for him. Suddenly the phrase, "Rod mio," attention, was heard. And then they turned their heads in one direction, because this was apparently the beginning of the event. He should have been there, not here. Then the same voice said, "His Majesty King Licht enters Ice, the noble leader and ruler, which means it's time to run there." She doesn't want to miss everything, especially since they were told in etiquette class that they shouldn't arrive at the banquet later than His Majesty, and they both remember it very well. Out of the blue, the girl didn't expect it, but he took her hand and said that there was nothing to be done. They had to go there right now. Otherwise, they would have too much homework for etiquette class. It was the first time he touched her of his own free will. The princess perceived this moment as something special, although she understands that it does not mean anything yet. Since he is older and will be asked how it happened that he is learning etiquette and himself is breaking some rules, they cannot linger for even a second. Along the way, they had already begun to think that if they couldn't get off with just a reprimand, especially since today was Ascari's birthday, and everyone was probably already waiting for him, they ran up to the doors very quickly. The assistant was surprised that they weren't in the main hall yet, but he let them in anyway. As soon as they appeared on the threshold, someone announced that the fourth Prince of Ascari and Princess Yenny were finally here. It should have been a very joyful moment, but they burst into tears just at the thought of being punished. And what she definitely didn't expect from him was support. He looked at her for the first time with a very kind look and said that in any case, he would try to talk to his brother so that he wouldn't get angry with them, especially since today is his birthday, and there should probably be some kind of concessions. And you can also come up with a legend so that no one would even think of blaming them later for being late. Then he took her hand again, even hinted that they could dance some kind of dance. If the older brother saw this, he would probably be very pleased. Only after this, when they had already calmed down and no longer looked so scared, the gentleman looked at them and made it clear that he would not forgive them for this just like that. Up until this point, he had to take over the guests' attention and entertain them so that they wouldn't notice that the birthday boy was still not there. He asked to explain how this happened. After all, he had provided them with many lessons in advance over these years, but everything only turned out worse, and his efforts were in vain. Ascari said he was very hot. He apologized and explained that he had simply lost his tie and could not find it anywhere. Then the brother suddenly changed, as if he forgot what they had just talked about and said that everything was fine. After all, today was his birthday, and he could turn a blind eye to it. But in any case, the celebration cannot begin until its main character gives the guests the first dance. This is exactly the table he was talking about to the princess a couple of minutes ago. He very politely led the girl behind him, said that she just needed to relax and trust him, because he was good at this and would do everything himself. She has no idea how it will all look. They didn't even rehearse anything, and she didn't know that she would even have to dance with him. He asked her to relax. It turned out to be harder than it seemed, after all. A lot of people were looking at them, and she was not used to this. It seems to her that if she makes some mistake, all these cats will attack her, although she can't explain why they would do this. She has some kind of inner fear that never leaves her for a second. She has to try to do everything perfectly. During the whole time, she didn't even step on his foot. He noticed it and said that he thought there would be a lot of this, but his shoes are clean and it's unexpected. She started to smile, said that so be it. In honor of his birthday, there would be nothing today that he could be afraid of. And then she realized that it might sound a little offensive and immediately apologized. After that, I said some very unpleasant words to him, congratulated him on his birthday, but I still haven't done it, and it's about time. He never thought he would hear that from her. After that, she went away. He didn't even have time to call her back, as someone had already approached him. It turned out to be the older brother. He touched his shoulder and congratulated him personally because everything he said in front of everyone was not quite what he would really like to say. The guy takes advantage of the situation. He says that since he has such a holiday today, maybe he deserves to fulfill one of his dreams, to sit in this place, unexpectedly, but he agreed to his brother and even said that he wanted to offer it to him himself. Ascari doesn't believe it, but is still glad that it happened. Meanwhile, the girl has already approached Noha. She has some kind of gift in her hands and she asks what he has prepared for her brother. He showed his gift and they were almost identically wrapped. Then they saw that I wasn't sitting on the throne, and they thought to give him the gifts right now so as not to forget. Yenny doesn't remember anyone telling her that there could be someone else sitting on Licht's throne besides him. Then she thought that it was most likely because of the celebration. Noha approached his older brother and said that he wanted to give a gift to Askari, which he had spent a long time choosing and trying to make him like. The girl doesn't understand why he warns his older brother about this. After all, the gift is intended for another person and it wasn't necessary to warn him for that. Noha also said that Yenny also prepared a gift for the birthday boy, and at that moment, Licht seemed to freeze and even stopped blinking his eyes. He doesn't understand since when the guy started calling her by her nickname, and he laughed and said that it just happened, and if he was interested, they could discuss it later. While the older brother was asking how this happened, the girl looked away and also couldn't believe her eyes. She never expected to see Ignis next to Askari. But everything would be fine. But he is going to give him a very similar toy to the one he was scared of some time ago. It all looks like it's some kind of joke to give him some bad memories, although Ignis seems polite and even smiles. Of course, the guy couldn't help but remember that situation. He didn't even want to take that toy in his hands, otherwise it would be damaged somewhere. He also asks why the birthday boy is not happy, and has not said a word since he saw this big hair. Just at the moment when Askari was already starting to get nervous and close his eyes so as not to see it in front of him, Yene came to them just in time. She thought that she had to do it. She poured the dark drink right on this toy so that the birthday boy would definitely not have to pick it up. Unlike the others, she understands perfectly well why this is being done. She didn't tell Ignis anything directly, but she showed that he wouldn't succeed. And since everyone was looking at them now, they had to pretend that she had simply stumbled. Although the guy probably understood everything perfectly well. She won't let him ruin the holiday. The princess couldn't help but do it and is ready to receive any punishment. But she did as her heart told her. Askari doesn't say anything, he doesn't even react in any way, which means that he's definitely not upset and is just afraid to show that he's only glad that the toy is ruined. Ignis didn't lose his head. He promised to buy another toy, after all he wants this gift to bring good emotions. But it even sounded somehow strange, as if in fact he wants to do exactly the opposite. Finally, the birthday boy decided to say something. He thought that it was enough to pretend that he didn't understand anything, grabbed the toy by the ears, looked at him with a very menacing look, and said that if he sees even one more toy like that, make sure that he is banned from appearing in this house. He wasn't going to tolerate this. After which he threw the toy right in his face, and with the side that was wet and dirty, to make it more effective. Meanwhile, the princess is already lying in her room. She slept for a while, and when she opened her eyes, she didn't understand what was happening. The banquet wasn't over yet, and she doesn't remember leaving there. Then asked who brought her here. She feels very strange, and it also seems that she forgot something. He explained that she just looked too tired, so he brought her here, and then she fell asleep, and he said again that she really did something wrong with the Askari. After these words, she had some memories, but they were all vague because she had not yet come to her senses. But she remembers very well how Askari hit Ignis hard. After that, the guy disappeared somewhere and she never saw him again. The princess is very proud of his deed. She would have done the same herself, but there were people around and she did not risk it. After that, Licht also told that the birthday boy made a big scene and then lost consciousness. The only good thing is that everything is fine with his health. He should also wake up soon. And now he wants to know why she actually smeared the rabbit because it's obvious to him that it wasn't an accident. She replied that she just doesn't like rabbits very much. Apparently, she's not going to tell him the truth because he simply might not believe it. His Majesty did not put pressure on her. He understands that if she does not want to tell something, then she will not do it under any circumstances. So she already answered from him and said that she wants to sleep, with a hint that he should leave her alone. In fact, the princess was not going to sleep, but he listened to her and said that, so be it, she would leave now, but the next day they would definitely need to talk. At the very last moment, when he was already leaving, she stopped him for a second to ask him for something. She begs him not to scold Askari too much after all. He is a child, and still does not fully know how to control his emotions, especially towards those he does not like. The guy promised that he would listen to her, but this does not mean that the birthday boy will be able to completely avoid punishment or at least a conversation for educational purposes. When he had already closed the door, she was able to get out of bed and felt that after such a conversation she would not fall asleep soon. Surprisingly, she has a lot of energy now. She won't calm down if she sits in the room. It looks like she's definitely going to go out somewhere now. To begin with, she wanted to drink a glass of water and also thought about opening the window, but when she looked in that direction, she saw someone. She didn't think that there could be cats here at such a time, and he also looks very much like an animal that can turn into a human. And yet, what confuses her most is the fact that he has a flower in his mouth. Taking a closer look, she realized that it was definitely a scary. Yen went out to his balcony, asked what he was doing there, and, as usual, he reacted to it somehow strangely. Could it really be that he was the one bringing her flowers all this time? Although maybe after the last conversation he just decided to do it, and those times, it was someone else. To calm him down, she patted him on the head and said that he had done a great job today and she was proud of him, especially with the situation with the toy. And she also asked him not to hold back any longer. In the end, only he can protect himself, and today's situation is an example of that. Yen wanted to wish him a happy birthday again, although he didn't seem to be in the mood for this conversation. At the very least, he feels very awkward about this flower. Suddenly, she already asks to hug him in this form of a cat, because she wanted to do this for a long time. In the end, they talked a little and she still went to rest and he too. The next day came. As usual, her assistant came to her in the morning, and as usual, she started to tell her how beautiful the princess looked even in the morning. She really likes doing her hair. She does it very well and quickly. In half an hour, the girl's whole look was ready. The assistant is confident. All the guys from the temple will be absolutely delighted when they see such beauty. And Yen at this moment thinks that this is a little too much. Receiving compliments has always been very pleasant. But from this girl, she hears them 10 times every day, and this is the minimum. Meanwhile, Noah comes in. It is clear that he is in a good mood and asks if she managed to prepare everything. He also gave her a few compliments because she really does look beautiful, basically as usual. But when he compared her to cotton candy, it was really too much. At that moment, she wanted to cover her ears so as not to hear any of this anymore. But he stopped in time and suggested that they hurry up so as not to be late. On the way, he tells her that he heard that today they are accompanied by the captain of the Persian Knights and that it is very cool. Yenna couldn't even imagine that everything was so serious. On the one hand, she is very happy, but on the other, it is very exciting. The guy thinks that she has definitely met her somewhere before, and judging by these words, the princess understood that it must be a girl. Here they are already on the street. They arrived just in time. The captain is already waiting for them near the carriage. She said that she was glad to see them, but hinted that they did not have time to say hello for a long time. At first glance, the girl looks very nice. She is very reserved. It is a shame that she knows her business and does not allow herself to do anything extra. Unlike other people who often communicate with children as if they were children, she does not do this because she knows that it is wrong, especially in a secular society. According to the rules of etiquette, any person, regardless of age, should be treated the same as any other adult. The captain asks them to get into the carriage. She promises that she will choose the fastest route so that they do not get tired and especially do not fall asleep on the way. It went off in the best possible way. Everyone had only positive emotions, and that's very good. As the commander promised, they arrived at the temple very quickly, and the weather today is so good that no one even has any bad thoughts. Yenna came to this place for the first time. She thought that the temple was so big, it was majestic and simply incredible. After a few minutes, a priest and many other people approached them. They greeted the prince and princess and showed respect. Instead of responding in kind, the guy for some reason started to get indignant that there were so many people around, although he could have kept quiet. She told him that it was very rude, that you can't say things like that here, especially to people like that. The priest also said that they were welcoming the predicted Messiah, so proper formality was important. He asked the prince not to be upset, and at that moment the guy felt very awkward. After all, the priest heard everything. He apologized to him, but still thinks it would be better if there weren't so many people around. Until this moment, the girl simply did not know that. In fact, Noka always disliked and avoided servants, especially when they try to serve him. For him, this is the most terrible thing. He is like that to everyone, even to the maids in the house where he lives. The same thing happens in any place where he goes. So people think that he is too rude, but he just doesn't like it when someone comes up to him and tries to offer something. He prefers to ask for help himself when it is needed, and most often he does everything himself so as not to bother anyone. To begin with, she thought that he needed to be calmed down because if he went to the temple in such a mood, it would be wrong. He explained that everything was fine and apologized for her having to see him in a state she had never seen him in before. He was just the way he was. And in the meantime, He decided to go look for records about the relic, and she asked her to stay here. It would still be better if he went there himself, and she did not resist, agreed, and said that she would be impatiently waiting for him somewhere here. The priest heard their conversation, so he offered to accompany the princess so that she would not be bored here. But when he introduced himself, she realized that he was not a priest at all. Firstly, he was a girl, and she was the high priestess, Jenny. It's very embarrassing that she only realized it now. She was surprised that she mixed up something that she was even embarrassed to admit or tell someone. Just as they were passing a large building, she had a feeling as if a magical reaction was coming from there, and she wondered what was so special about it. The girl asked if she was really interested in this place. Jenny thought that she should take advantage of the opportunity and still asked what was there. Anyway, if it's some kind of secret information, she'll just say it and not tell anything. But the priestess suggested going inside, which means everything's fine. Since there is no difference here whether a child or an adult is here, she said that this is the chapel where the remains of Lord Akamaru are kept. After all, everyone should know about it. Mio clan received their titles. His Majesty Licht held his coronation here 5 years ago. Yenny realized that this was the very place where she felt strong magic. She had never been to such places before, and it was a pity. She would have been happy to visit here more often. To begin with, the girl asked if she understood correctly that Akamaru was the one who declared her the messiah of the family. And while the girl didn't answer, she added that Molly said that Akamaru used magic to look into the future and named the messiah of the one who would someday appear. The priestess replied that all this was correct, and then for some reason asked her to extend her hand. The girl didn't understand why this was necessary, what the girl would do with it, and there was no one nearby who could tell her whether she should listen to her or not. Out of the blue, she had a strange voice in her head that said the following: "On the day when 2 red moons will swallow the darkness, the last sorcerer of this land will be born, the one who will save the kingdom of Mio." And she also has this feeling that these words have some relation to her. The girl noticed that something was wrong with the child. She asked her if everything was okay, but Yen couldn't even really answer anything. She didn't get out of bed. She just heard something. After that, her head started to hurt, but somehow not in the usual way, as it happens, but in a special way. The priestess begins to say that the prophecy, passing along the bloodline of the high priest, passed on to a special ability. Correct them. They say His Majesty said that if Her Highness showed interest in the prophecy, they would be allowed to reveal its contents, which means Licht foresaw that she would ask about the prophecy. After this, she has only one question: why her? And even if it is so, then why is everything so complicated? The princess thinks that since she is the cursed object of this prophecy, her life was supposed to wither before it could blossom. Even the kingdom she was born in was banished to the halls of history. The more she tries to understand, the more she realizes that she understands nothing and that she is still very far from the truth. After she thought about hers for a bit, she asked what exactly it meant to save the Mio kingdom. What specific actions should be taken? All hope was that the girl would finally reveal this secret because she herself would hardly think of it. And if she did, it would be a long time before. And then she says that, unfortunately, she can't answer this question, at least for now. Judging from this conversation, we can conclude that she will be able to find out the necessary information only if she asks Licht about it directly. There is no other way. Very unexpectedly, Noha comes to them. He says that he found a document that is worth checking. He thought that he would say about it, leave and return soon. But he had to delay because he saw the strange face of the princess, which worried him very much. He started asking her what had happened, asked her to tell only the truth and nothing but the truth, because he knows very well how she can deceive, and imperceptibly. He had already started to raise his voice to the high priestess. Only after that the girl said that everything was fine. Everything was not as serious as it seemed, and asked never to talk to this girl like that again. She was already tired of blushing for him after all. They were in a place where such behavior was unacceptable. And after that, she hinted that she was too tired and that it would be nice to finally go back. He immediately grabbed her hand and said that since she wanted it so much, they would try not to stay here for long. After all, there were still a couple of things to do, and they couldn't leave right now. He also really offended the girl at the end, that since they already understood or there are no useful abilities, then she does not deserve their attention. But this was already too much. Once again, Yenna felt very ashamed of him. She looked at her and with her eyes made it clear that she herself felt very embarrassed about this. Because of him, she can't even say goodbye to her normally, because he will say something else and they will definitely be punished for it. At the end, only the high priestess wished them all the best, despite how and what she was just told. And meanwhile, in a huge hall, a serious meeting is taking place. More than 10 people are sitting at a huge table and discussing that this is very important. The Marquis of Scottish says the high priest who revealed the prophecy was found dead. He doesn't want to talk about it but thinks people should know. That's why they're all gathered here. Some think there are traitors among them, and he might not be the only one. And it is clear that this is a very painful and unpleasant topic for everyone. But on the other hand, they cannot help but discuss it. Some man said that if anyone dared to betray them and raise a sword against the royal family, he would not escape severe punishment, and everyone naturally supported him. Just at that moment, Lisht came to them. He heard these words and said that the Duke of Siam is completely right, and he supports him in this. The Marquis greeted the noble ruler of the Mio kingdom, wanted to say that the Lord was late as always, but he held back. Licht said that enough greetings, asked everyone to take their seats and said that everyone probably already knew perfectly well why he had gathered everyone here. A man who disappeared completely came back as dead, and he wants to ask what it could mean in their opinion. One of the people says that this looks very much like a provocation against His Majesty. Otherwise, how could the body be found now, after 4 years? He reads that they must immediately root out the traitor hiding in the Mayo kingdom, and as soon as possible. Licht agrees that this is a real provocation and that they should make every effort to find the traitor as quickly as possible. Only he has one more question for them: how they couldn't find him for 3 years, and asks to somehow explain it. First of all, he wants to hear the Duke of Siam. He puts in the impression of a person who can answer any question, but this time, something went wrong. Or maybe the gentleman didn't just turn to him. Maybe he knows something about him. The man had to answer that they could try to throw out a bait that they could not refuse, since they were pursuing the Messiah, and if they used it, it would be too tempting a trap to ignore. At first glance, the card, that it is very important bad idea and why not take advantage, but then the guy thought that there might be a traitor among them and they definitely shouldn't use the plan discussed here. But if so, then how can they plan anything? And most importantly, with whom? He has very bad intuition to feel who can be trusted with this matter and who cannot. In order to somehow support the conversation and make it seem like he likes this idea, the guy asked, "What if something happens to the Messiah during the execution of this plan?" The man answered this question: "Everything is very simple. Knights will never fail, so you don't even have to worry or think about it." Out of the blue, the gentleman rejected this idea because even the slightest threat should not befall the girl. He warned that if something happened to her, their lives would not be enough to atone for it. And also, by the next meeting, he asked to provide an acceptable plan, which would contain at least some reasonable points. Otherwise, he will be forced to appoint surveillance for each of them. And this is no longer a joke. For him to do this, it costs nothing. No one understood at what point the gentleman got angry. At the end, he even said the phrase, "I hope that your heads are on your shoulders not only for beauty." They immediately began to calm him down, and he replied that it was better not to. Then he turned to Milios, asked where he could find the princess, to which the assistant replied that Prince Noha and the Duchess had safely returned her, and now the girl was getting ready for bed. The gentleman thinks that she must have some questions after visiting the temple. He was ready for this and would not mind talking to her, but he is sure that she was afraid to approach him. He hadn't taken any days off for a long time. He decided to drop in on her himself, especially since it should be nice for her. Meanwhile, the girl's assistant came to her. She asked if she had time to change into her pajamas, and Yenna had just done it a minute ago, or rather, Alice reported that the chief heard that she was not feeling well and prescribed her this medicine, which it is advisable to take now before bed. And you also need to drink everything to the last drop. Yene didn't ask any questions, silently drank everything completely, and the assistant was glad that she didn't even have to be forced. And then the girl thought that since this medicine was prepared by Licht, perhaps it had some additional effect, and of course, no one would say anything about it. She just started to feel sleepy, so much so that she was afraid she wouldn't even make it to bed. Just in case, the girl took her in her arms, said that today had been a very long day and suggested that she sleep right now. Yenny even heard her. She is completely focused on her feelings. She feels that something is wrong. This drowsiness is somehow unnatural, and it really bothers her. After all, this shouldn't be happening. In the end, the assistant still put her on the bed. Everything looks like she knows something, and it's not just like that she puts the girl on the bed quickly. Yen feels some effect from the sleeping pill and hopes that it's not it, and that it's her usual fatigue. After she had already laid down on the bed and started to fall asleep, Alice went about her business and said goodnight. At some point, the girl felt that this presence opens her eyes and sees the silhouette of a person who clearly does not look like the people she knows. This man has some kind of hood on. He is clearly hiding, and for some reason he is holding out his hand to her. It looks so strange that she's about to scream throughout the room. And also, her consciousness begins to slowly disappear. She no longer controls her emotions, her body. All this is too suspicious, but she cannot even feel it. In a normal state, she would have already gotten out of bed and would have started doing something. But now she can't even properly open her eyes to look at this person. The next day came. Without suspecting anything, the guy comes to the girl's room and realizes that she is not there, and no one knows where she might be. He asks his assistant how to understand this, how she could not keep an eye on the child, and she doesn't even know what to answer to this. She only knows that the second son of the Ragdoll family, the royal servant, said that His Highness gave the medicine to the princess. He said that she was tired from the schedule, so he recommended her to take the medicine and rest. And then he left. But then what happened. The gentleman says that he doesn't know anything like that. He didn't give any medicine and he's already starting to get nervous because the fact remains that the girl drank some unknown substance and disappeared. He understood what it meant. Even the meeting that was held after the body was found was a trap from the very beginning, and he himself began to share that he himself did not notice it. Millie came. He also has bad news. He came to say that the second son of the Ragdolls also disappeared. And also the Duchess sealed all the borders on the Persian territory, and he does not know what to do about it. Licht remembers that the gates were closed, so he could not escape from Mio, asked to increase security and thoroughly search all the surrounding areas. And he also thought that the one he asked to watch the princess was also suspiciously not responding. This could mean that she is where the light does not reach. He has no other options left except to go and look for her himself, and of course, not without the help of magic. He won't let Yen get hurt. It's obvious that someone kidnapped her. But once he finds out who did it, that person will be in trouble. He is already doomed to a cruel punishment. The gentleman was already in a bad mood, and now, even more so. To commit such an act in his domain is too much. It is better for him not to think that he will get away with something like this so easily. He will have to answer for it. Meanwhile, the girl is already in an unfamiliar place. She has some kind of bandage on her face. She can't talk. They didn't even put a pillow under her head. Her head is splitting so much that she doesn't even have the strength to think about what to do in such a situation. All she can do is hope for Licht, who should have noticed that she was missing. She very clearly remembers the silhouette of a man who entered her room, and so silently and unnoticed that she would definitely not have noticed it right away. This is a real kidnapping. All that remains is to find out who did it and with what intention, because what they will do with her here and what must happen for her to be returned depends on this. She has never been in such a situation and did not think that this would happen to her at all. The worst thing that could happen is if they tell her that someone wants to take her back to the lab and she has no chance to save herself. She began to calm herself down. Because if you think about the bad every second, you can go crazy. At least nothing bad is happening now. She is lying calmly on the floor and it seems like there is no one nearby for now. For now, since there is such an opportunity and no one is watching her, at least it seems so to her. She thought to focus on magic and cut the ropes in one fell swoop. Yen is not sure if it will work, but if she doesn't get caught, she won't know. Now she needs to do everything to free herself, and surprisingly, she was able to do it in a matter of seconds. She didn't even notice how it happened, but that's not all. It's unlikely that she'll be able to leave here calmly. There should be a lot of security around. Why did she start looking around to understand where she is? Maybe there are some objects here that will immediately make it clear that this is so, although it is very unlikely. It's very dark around. She can't see well. Moreover, her head hurts so much that it's very difficult to think now. Only now she realized that judging by the sounds, it was some kind of freight car, and it was on the way now. She became even more scared after all. The further they moved away from Licht's estate, the longer he would look for her. And during this time, anything could happen. She was lucky and she heard from someone that they were about to pass through the Mioj gate. Someone asking someone not to weaken their vigilance and not to scatter their attention to all sorts of trifles. Mioj yet? There's just time to cast a spell before they take you further away from the palace. In any case, it definitely won't get any worse. The girl is very worried. She has never done this before. And as usual, she has to come up with everything herself. The only thing that calms her down is that everything usually works out, so she is not afraid to do it again. She started saying these words, "Blow up this carriage with a fireball, turning it to ashes with a quick flash." then soar into the sky and escape in confusion. It sounds strange, but she probably knows what she's doing. The main thing is that no one interferes with her now and everything works out. It's hard to even imagine what she would do without her magic. It helps her a lot, and if she manages to come back, Yen will definitely devote much more time and effort to it. The girl feels her magic working, but she is not sure what will happen in the end, and whether she will regret that she started doing something at all. After all, it is a big risk, and it will be bad if someone notices it before everything works. The carriage began to rock too much. It makes it very difficult to focus. Because of this, the head begins to hurt more, and its strength weakens.